Joining me now, former personal attorney for Donald Trump and host of the Substack channel, The Real Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen. Michael, what's your reaction to the raid of John Bolton's house? Hi.
Well, I've been there. As you know, years back, they raided my home, hotel, and my law office as well. Let me be very clear about something. What we have here is the Trump team, the DOJ, going through, for example, the book, The Room Where It All Happened, which I actually had read while I was in solitary confinement. And they've noticed that there are many aspects of this book that appear to be of national security importance. And that's what I believe that they predicated this raid upon. I also believe that there's no doubt that he will be indicted. They will find documents once they go through, for example, his computer. They'll find the manuscript. They'll see emails going back and forth between John Bolton, his people, as well as maybe the attorney that reviewed it for, for legal ease and for, for questions. I believe that he needs to lawyer up, and very much like what happened to years ago, Reality Winner. That's a name that nobody talks about anymore. One document that was about Russian election interference ultimately had her incarcerated. She was a whistleblower, had her incarcerated for years. And I predict that John Bolton is going to suffer the same consequence.
What you're talking about here, I think you bring up two potential threads. And again, there's still a lot that we don't know about what the underlying reasons were to ultimately obtain this warrant and search Bolton's home and his office. But you're talking about two things. The first is the book that he wrote that was already the subject of some legal scrutiny of whether or not he went through the appropriate channels of basically getting the information that he was exposed to during his time in the White House approved to then use in the book. The Trump administration contention at that point had been that that information was classified. Bolton denied that. Ultimately, that suit was done away with in 2021 in the early days of Biden's Department of Justice. The other thing you're talking about is the potential for media leaks as part of the scrutiny here. I think overall, we don't know yet what we're seeing. But when you look at what you've seen happen here and you hear the president, as he said in the last hour or so, say, I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer, what does that make you think about the Department of Justice?
He's crossed yet another name off of his enemies list. He's doing it to Tish James. He's doing it to Adam Schiff. He's doing it to Alvin Bragg. And there are many more on that list that will ultimately suffer a very similar consequence. You know, one of the funny thing when I heard him say, that I am the chief law enforcement, yes, that's an actually accurate statement. I also just want to correct you, Ali, where you turned around and you said that that matter had been decided. Remember, that matter was decided under a Biden administration. The belief
not decided, dropped.
Was dropped, but that doesn't necessarily mean that under this Trump administration, they won't try to revive it in a different manner.
Yeah, I think that's important here. And that's one of the questions that we have, frankly. Yeah. Is that related to that? Is it reviving that? Is it regarding something else? But, Michael, you, of course, have been the target of many attacks by the president. Are you personally worried now about more retribution against yourself in light of what you're seeing here from the former ambassador?
Well, I think everybody who's on an enemies list, especially somebody who's as powerful as the president of the United States, should have some concern. Personally, no, I'm not. I've already done my time. I did my time once based upon the early Russia hoax matter. On top of that, I was reincarcerated by Bill Barr, weaponized Department of Justice, because I, too, refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right and not publish my book, Disloyal. So, yeah, I understand what John Bolton. By the way, I'm no fan of John Bolton's either, but nevertheless, this isn't, as far as I'm concerned, about justice and so on. This is yet scratching off. Remember one thing, Ali, Donald Trump campaigned on this. He's actually living up to a yet another campaign promise. And what was that campaign promise? I will be your retribution. He said he was going to go after all of these individuals, and one by one, he's slowly doing that.
And we've also seen his now head of the FBI, Kash Patel, during his confirmation hearings, asked about a so-called enemies list that was talked about during the Trump campaign days before the re-election. Then during the confirmation hearings, Patel ultimately denied that that list was in play or going to run his workings of the FBI. And yet we have seen several of the names that were part of that list, everyone from Miles Taylor to John Bolton now, have some kind of investigation leveled against them. Michael Cohen, I appreciate you joining us.
Each and every one of them,
perspective.
Ali, let me just finish by saying each and every one of them should be concerned. They should be lawyering up right now. And I also, sadly, I believe each and every one of them will suffer a very similar consequence to what I did.
Michael Cohen, thank you.